Chapter 30. The Wisdom of the Angels of Heaven. The nature of angelic wisdom can scarcely be comprehended, because it too greatly transcends human wisdom to be compared with it. And whatever is thus transcendent does not seem to be anything. Moreover, some truths that must enter into the description of it are as yet unrecognized, and until these are recognized, they exist in the understanding as shadows, and thus hide the thing as it is in itself. Nevertheless, they are such truths as can be known, and when known be comprehended, provided the mind takes delight in them. For delight has light with it, because it is from love. And upon those who love the things pertaining to divine and heavenly wisdom, light shines forth from heaven, and there is enlightenment. What the wisdom of the angels is can be inferred from the fact that they are in the light of heaven, and the light of heaven in its essence is divine truth or divine wisdom. And this light enlightens at the same time their inner sight, or sight of the mind, and their outer sight, or sight of the eyes. That the light of heaven is divine truth or divine wisdom can be seen above. The angels are also in heavenly heat, which in its essence is divine good or divine love, from which they have the affection and longing to become wise. That the heat of heaven is divine good or divine love may be seen above. That the angels are in wisdom, even to the extent that they may be called wisdoms, can be concluded from the fact that their thoughts and affections all flow in accordance with the heavenly form, which form is that of divine wisdom, and that their interiors, which are recipients of wisdom, are arranged according to that form. That the thoughts and affections of angels flow in accordance with the form of heaven, and consequently their intelligence and wisdom, may be seen above. That angels have supereminent wisdom can be confirmed by the fact that their speech is the speech of wisdom, for it flows immediately and spontaneously from thought, and from this affection. Thus their speech is thought from affection in outward form. Consequently, there is nothing to withdraw them from the heavenly influx, and nothing from without, such as enters into the speech of man from outer thoughts. That the speech of angels is the speech of their thought and affection may be seen above. Also, in harmony with such angelic wisdom is the fact that all the things that they see with their eyes and perceive by their senses agree, since they are correspondences of it, and thus objects of a form representative of such things as belong to their wisdom. That all things seen in the heavens are correspondences with the interiors of angels and representations of their wisdom may be seen above. Besides, the thoughts of angels are not limited and confined by ideas from space and time as human thoughts are, for spaces and times belong to nature. And the things that belong to nature withdraw the mind from spiritual things and deprive intellectual sight of its range. That the ideas of angels are apart from time and space, and thus less limited than human ideas, may be seen above. Neither are the thoughts of angels brought down to earthly and material things, nor interrupted by any cares about the necessities of life. Thus they are not withdrawn by such things from the delights of wisdom, as are the thoughts of men in the world. for all things come to them gratuitously from the Lord. They are clothed, fed, and housed all gratuitously. And besides this, they are given delights and pleasures in accordance with their reception of wisdom from the Lord. These things have been said that it may be known whence the angels have so great wisdom. Angels are capable of receiving such wisdom because their interiors have been opened. And wisdom, like every perfection, increases towards the interiors, thus to the extent that interiors are opened. In every angel there are 3 degrees of life, corresponding to the 3 heavens. Those in whom the 1st degree has been opened are in the 1st or outermost heaven. Those in whom the 2nd degree has been opened are in the 2nd or middle heaven, while those in whom the 3rd degree has been opened are in the 3rd or inmost heaven. The wisdom of the angels in the heavens is in accordance with these degrees. Therefore, the wisdom of the angels of the inmost heaven immeasurably surpasses the wisdom of the angels of the middle heaven, and the wisdom of these immeasurably surpasses the wisdom of the angels of the outermost heaven. There are such differences because the things which are in the higher degree are particulars, and those in the lower degree are generals, and generals are containants of particulars. Particulars in relation to generals are as thousands or myriads to one, and such is the wisdom of the angels of a higher heaven in relation to the wisdom of the angels of a lower heaven. In like manner, the wisdom of the latter surpasses the wisdom of man, for man is in a bodily state, and in those things that belong to the bodily senses, and man's bodily sense belongs to the lowest degree. This makes clear what kind of wisdom those possess who think from things of sense, that is, who are called sensual men, namely, that they are not in any wisdom, but only in knowledge. But it is otherwise with the men whose thoughts are raised above the things of sense, and especially with those whose interiors have been opened even into the light of heaven. How great is the wisdom of angels can be confirmed from the fact that in the heavens there is a communication of all things. Intelligence and wisdom are communicated from one to another, and heaven is a communion of all goods. The reason is that heavenly love is such that it wills what is its own to be another's. Consequently, no one in heaven perceives his own good in himself to be good unless it is also in another. And this is the source of the happiness of heaven. This the angels derive from the Lord, whose divine love is of such a nature that there is such a communication of all things in the heavens. It has been granted me to know by experience. Certain spirits have sometimes been taken up into heaven, and when there they entered into angelic wisdom, and then understood things that they were never before able to comprehend, and spoke things that they were unable to utter in their former state. The wisdom of angels is indescribable in words, but can only be illustrated by some general things. Angels can express in a single word what man cannot express in 1,000 words. Again, a single angelic word contains innumerable things that cannot be expressed in the words of human language. For in every single word spoken by angels, there are arcana of wisdom in a continuous connection to which human knowledges never reach. Again, what the angels fail to express in the words of their speech, they make up by the tone, in which there is an affection for the things in its order. For as has been said above, they express affections by tones, and the ideas of thought from affections by words. Thus it is that the things heard in heaven are said to be ineffable. So too the angels are able to give utterance in a few words to every last thing written in an entire volume, and to put into every word meanings that elevate the mind to interior wisdom. For their speech is such as to be in accord with their affections, and each word is in accord with their ideas, their words being varied in infinite ways in accord with the series of things which in complex are in the thought. The interior angels also can know from the tone, together with a few of the words, the entire life of one speaking. For from the tone, as varied by the ideas in the words, they perceive his ruling love, upon which, as it were, every particular of his life is inscribed. All this makes clear the nature of angelic wisdom. Their wisdom in comparison with human wisdom is as a myriad to one, or as the moving forces of the whole body, which are numberless, to the activities from them which appear to human sense as a single thing, or as the 1,000 particulars of an object seen under a perfect microscope to the one obscure thing seen by the naked eye. I would illustrate the subject by an example. An angel from his wisdom described regeneration, and brought forward arcana respecting it in their order, even to some hundreds, filling each of them with ideas in which there were interior arcana, and this from beginning to end. For he explained how the spiritual man is conceived anew, is carried, as it were, in the womb, is born, grows up, and is successively perfected. He said that the number of arcana could be increased even to thousands, and that those spoken of were only about the regeneration of the external man, and that there were innumerably more about the regeneration of the internal man. From these and other similar things heard from angels, it has been made clear to me how great is their wisdom, and how great in comparison is the ignorance of man, who scarcely knows what regeneration is, and is ignorant of every least step of the process when he is being regenerated. The wisdom of the angels of the third or inmost heaven will now be described, and how far it surpasses the wisdom of the angels of the first or outermost heaven. The wisdom of the angels of the third or inmost heaven is incomprehensible, even to those who are in the outermost heaven. The reason for this is that the interiors of the angels of the third heaven have been opened to the third degree, while the interiors of angels in the first heaven have been opened only to the first degree, and all wisdom increases towards interiors and is perfected as these are opened. Because the interiors of the angels of the third or inmost heaven have been opened to the third degree, divine truths are, as it were, inscribed on them. For the interiors of the third degree are more fully in the form of heaven than the interiors of the second and first degrees. And the form of heaven is from the divine truth, thus in accord with the divine wisdom. This is why the divine truth is, as it were, inscribed on those angels, or as if implanted by nature or innate. Therefore, as soon as these angels hear genuine divine truths, they instantly acknowledge and perceive them, and afterwards see them, as it were, inwardly in themselves. As the angels of that heaven are such, they never reason about divine truths, still less do they dispute about any truth, whether it is so or not so, nor do they know what it is to believe or to have faith. For they say, "What is faith? I perceive and see that a thing is so." This they illustrate by comparisons. For example, it would be like someone with a companion seeing a house and various things in and around it, saying to his companion that he ought to believe that these things exist, and that they are such as he sees them to be. Or like someone seeing a garden and trees and fruit in it, and saying to his companion that he ought to have faith that there is a garden with trees and fruits, when he is seeing them clearly with his eyes. For this reason, these angels never mention faith, nor have any idea of it. Neither do they reason about divine truths, still less do they dispute about any truth, whether it is so or not. The angels of the first or outermost heaven, however, do not have divine truths thus inscribed on their interiors, because to them only the first degree of life is opened. Therefore they reason about truths, and those who reason see almost nothing beyond the fact of the matter about which they are reasoning, nor go further beyond the subject than to confirm it by certain considerations, and having confirmed it, they say that it must be a matter of faith and is to be believed. I have talked with angels about this, and they said that the difference between the wisdom of the angels of the third heaven and the wisdom of the angels of the first heaven is like that between what is clear and what is obscure. The former they compared to a magnificent palace full of all things for use, surrounded on all sides by parks, with magnificent things of many kinds round about them. And as these angels are in the truths of wisdom, they can enter into the palace and behold all things, and wander about in the parks in every direction, and find delight in it all. But it is not so with those who reason about truths, especially with those who dispute about them. For such do not see truths from the light of truth, but accept truths either from others or from the sense of the letter of the word, which they do not interiorly understand, declaring that truths must be believed, or that one must have faith in them. And then they are not willing to have any interior sight admitted. The angels said that such are unable to reach the first threshold of the palace of wisdom, still less to enter into it and wander about in its grounds, for they stop at the first step. It is different with those who are in truths themselves. Nothing impedes these from going on and progressing without limit, for the truths they see lead them wherever they go, even into wide fields. For every truth has infinite extension and is in conjunction with manifold others. They said still further that the wisdom of the angels of the inmost heaven consists principally in this, that they see divine and heavenly things in every single object, and wonderful things in a series of many objects. For all things that appear before their eyes have their correspondence. As when they see palaces and gardens, their view does not dwell upon the things that are before their eyes, but they see the interior things from which they spring, that is, to which they correspond. And this with all variety, in accordance with the aspect of the objects. Thus they see innumerable things at the same time in their order and connection. And this so fills their minds with delight that they seem to be carried away from themselves. That all things that are seen in the heavens correspond to the divine things that are in the angels from the Lord may be seen above. Such are the angels of the third heaven because they are in love to the Lord, and that love opens the interiors of the mind to the third degree, and is a receptacle of all things of wisdom. It must be understood also that angels of the inmost heaven are still being continually perfected in wisdom, and this differently from the angels of the outermost heaven. The angels of the inmost heaven do not store up divine truths in the memory and thus make out of them a kind of science, but as soon as they hear them, they perceive them and apply them to life. For this reason, divine truths are as permanent with them as if they were inscribed on them. For what is committed to the life is as something contained in it. But it is not so with the angels of the outermost heaven. These first store up divine truths in their memory, and stow them away with their knowledge, and draw them out therefrom to perfect their understanding by them, and will them and apply them to the life, but with no interior perception as to whether they are truths. Consequently, they are in comparative obscurity. It is a notable fact that the angels of the third heaven are perfected in wisdom by hearing and not by seeing. What they hear from preachings does not enter into their memory, but enters directly into their perception and will, and becomes a matter of life. What they see with their eyes, however, does enter into their memory, and they reason and talk about it. This shows that with them the way of hearing is the way of wisdom. This too is from correspondence, for the ear corresponds to obedience, and obedience belongs to the life, while the eye corresponds to intelligence, and intelligence is a matter of doctrine. The state of these angels is described in different parts of the word, as in Jeremiah. I will put my law in their mind and write it on their heart. They shall teach no more every one his friend and every one his brother, saying, Know ye Jehovah. For they shall all know me, from the least of them even to the greatest of them. And in Matthew, let your speech be yea, yea, nay, nay. What is more than these is from evil. What is more from these is from evil, because it is not from the Lord. For the truths which are in the angels of the third heaven are from the Lord, because they are in love to him. In that heaven, love to the Lord is willing and doing divine truth. For divine truth is the Lord in heaven. Yet there is another reason, which in heaven is the primary reason, why angels are able to receive so great wisdom, namely, that they are without the love of self. For to the extent that anyone is without the love of self, he can become wise in divine things. It is that love which closes up the interiors against the Lord and heaven, and opens the exteriors and turns them to self. Consequently, all in whom that love has dominion are in thick darkness in respect of the things of heaven, however much light they may have in worldly matters. The angels, on the other hand, are in the light of wisdom because they are without the love of self. For the heavenly love in which they are, which are love to the Lord and love towards the neighbour, open the interiors, because these loves are from the Lord, and the Lord himself is in them. That these loves make heaven in general, and form heaven in each one in particular, may be seen above. As heavenly loves open the interiors to the Lord, so all angels turn their faces towards the Lord. For in the spiritual world, it is the love which turns the interiors of every one to itself. And whichever way it turns the interiors, it also turns the face, since the face there makes one with the interiors, of which it is their outward form. Because the love turns the interiors and the face to itself, it also conjoins itself to them, love being spiritual conjunction, and shares its own with them. From that turning and consequent conjunction and sharing, the angels have their wisdom. That all conjunction and all turning in the spiritual world are in accord may be seen above. The angels are continually being perfected in wisdom, but they cannot be so perfected to eternity that there can be any ratio between their wisdom and the Lord's divine wisdom. For the Lord's divine wisdom is infinite, and that of the angels finite. And between what is infinite and what is finite, there can be no ratio. As it is wisdom that makes the angels perfect and makes their life, and as heaven with its goods flows into everyone in accordance with his wisdom, so all in heaven desire wisdom and seek for it as a hungry man seeks food. So too knowledge, intelligence and wisdom are spiritual nutriment, as food is natural nutriment, and the one corresponds to the other. The angels in one heaven, or in one society of heaven, are not all in like wisdom. Their wisdom differs. Those in the middle are in the greatest wisdom, and those round about, even to the borders, are in less wisdom. The decrease of wisdom in accordance with the distance from the middle is like the decrease of light verging to shade. The light they have is in the same degree as their wisdom, since the light of heaven is the divine wisdom, and everyone is in light in accordance with his reception of wisdom. Respecting the light of heaven and the varying kinds of reception of it, see above.